Just want to say good afternoon to all our viewers tonight as we are here with Dr. Tabitha Anderson, a specialist when it comes on to health and wellness, when it comes on to sports, lifestyle, and it's really a pleasure to have her on here. Her spreadsheet, her career, it's an extensive one. And as a result, what I'm going to do first is to just have Dr. Anderson to introduce herself and just want to let you know, Dr. Anderson, that we welcome you to the platform tonight and we're happy to have you here. So if you don't mind, just first let the audience know who is Tabitha Anderson, Dr. Anderson.
Well, thank you for having me, Ian. I was born and raised in Jamaica, from actually Barbican in Kingston, Barbican St. Andrew. The last few years of my life, I've been quite busy um, raising a family and going to school. I've spent most of my career in academia, and in a lot of years, I'm more focused on health and wellness and lifestyle, functional fitness. I'm currently completing a master's of science in nursing at Duke University. I have multiple college degrees. Most of them are health related. I'm also a certified powerlifting coach. I compete at the national level in the United States, and I'm actually on board to compete for Jamaica in the next coming months. I spend my focus right now is on basically educating people concerning their health and wellness with medicine as supplements. So I would prefer to see people using food as medicine, using exercise, and not totally depending on doctors to get them healthy, because that's not what medicine does.
Wow. That's quite interesting there, Dr. Tabitha, and someone who born and raised here in local style Jamaica, you
Mhm.
know, migrated to the United States, and as you say, health and wellness is basically on the top of your list.
Yes.
And my first question tonight is what triggered you to get into the health and wellness and now being a nurse and want to transition to nurse practitioner? So we want to get that part. What
Okay.
drive you?
So several things. I was always interested in science. I've always been naturally curious. Um, I have a master's degree in public health where I acquired that at Texas A&M University. And throughout that entire program, everybody kept, all they spoke about was um, the concern that Black people have. Is Black people this, Black people that, and it appears that we were on the back end of the spectrum in terms of certain chronic illnesses, diabetes, Black people condition, high blood pressure, Black people condition. It came off as our bodies were bad, it just didn't make sense. So pretty much spent my time trying to understand, asking the why. Why is it we tend to have more high blood pressure than other people? Or high blood pressure is different than that of other races. Why is it we have more asthma? Why is it we have more of these conditions? And we're definitely not getting the treatment and care that other people are getting for those. My personal experience, I literally had a pretty bad back injury a few years back. Went to how I got into the powerlifting. And I met a wonderful doctor, and she told me basically, you need to go to the gym. You can't get treated for your back injury. Medicine can't treat you. There's nothing for you on the medical side. All they can do is give you pills. So I followed her advice. I went to the gym. And one day, about 6 months later, I deadlifted 400 pounds as a 44-year-old woman. That's not normal. You don't see that every day. So once I did that, I just kept going. My back pretty much healed. And you're talking about multiple herniations. My back is healed. And I spend a lot of time trying to educate people who come to the hospital where I work with very similar injury hey, we can't help you. You need to go to the gym. Um, it just blossomed into right now. I'm spend a lot of a lot of time in the gym. I pretty much stay in the gym, um, and I find that keeps me healthy. My blood pressure is healthy. You know, diabetes is chasing me, but it's not catching because I spend a lot of time working out. I spend a lot of time making sure I eat well. Not perfect, just well. So that's kind of how I got started in this.
Great. And as you mentioned the gym, we spoke earlier this afternoon, and you were definitely heading into the gym.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of tell me how serious you are when it comes to your workout.
Yeah.
So this afternoon we had asked for a few questions for you, Dr. Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely want to ask this one because I am also a registered nurse, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the first question from my end is, as a registered nurse and powerlifting champion,
Mm-hmm.
how does strength training impact overall health, especially for those, as you said, managing these chronic
Okay.
illnesses?
Um, I will say this off the bat: our bodies were designed to move. It's well researched that people who sit down for work lose years of life. There's a reason the Asians live very long. They don't have chairs in their houses. They sit on the floor. And what that does is you're literally forced to get up from a seated position. So you're squatting. Every time you have to get up from the floor, you're basically squatting up and down. Their toilets are sometimes mostly a hole in the ground. We're sitting every day of our lives, and that's killing us. Um, People who sit for a living just happen to die sooner. The other aspect of this, I'm going to pick on diabetes. What is
Go
diabetes?
ahead.
Diabetes is simply when our pancreas stops functioning as it's intended to, because we do not use our muscles the way they're supposed to. If we think about it, and I explain this to my patients, if you have diabetes, you basically eat food is your fuel. So if you have a car and you're putting fuel in it and you're not driving it around, the fuel is just sitting in there. If you start to move to get your blood sugar to go down, you literally have to start to move. So I see a lot of patients that don't have money for insulin. They come to us because their blood sugar is 300-400. They didn't have money for insulin. So I'll say to her, do you know what you can do at home? Go for a walk. The same thing if you have a car with fuel in it and you want to burn that fuel out, what do you got to do? You got to drive it. The body's the same way. I know it's a simplistic view of what I educate my patients on, so I don't have to go very complex. Our bodies were simply designed to move. The other aspect of strength training is the more muscle you have, sugar is stored in the muscle. So your cells that pick up the glucose from your blood, it has somewhere to store it. So the more muscle you have, you're burning more sugar at rest. So I'm sitting here after the gym today, I'm literally burning more calories just sitting here than someone who didn't spend 2 hours in the gym today. That's just a consequence of not only working out, but I do have about 130 pounds of muscle on my body. That muscle there, I can eat a lot right now, a lot more than I could back before I started lifting. Because I have a large amount of muscle, I'm able to use that up without moving, just sitting. So that's one of the advantage of lifting. The other thing that it does, it improves your heart, it improves your cardiovascular system. I was in training to put IVs in, and we were using an ultrasound. And the lady who was teaching the class, when we were training on each other, she said, "You have a lot of valves. Do you work out?" And I was like, "Yeah, what does that have to do with anything?" She said, "People who strength train have a lot more valves in their blood vessels, in their veins, than people who do not. For example, before I started lifting, my legs would get swollen at the end of a 12-hour day. They don't anymore. And what she explained, because I have now a lot more muscle, and I have a lot of valves, so when the blood starts to move goes against gravity, it kind of does like this. So when the valves are in your vein, they open up to allow blood to pass, and they close to prevent backflow. Someone with varicose veins, their valves are damaged, so that's why it looks like that. So if you've got really good valves, the blood doesn't backflow. It continues to go against gravity in a much more efficient form. So it strengthens your cardiovascular system. Another advantage for me, my heart rate went from a resting 79 on average, which is normal, to I'm in the low 60s now. I'm 200 pounds. So I'm 200 pounds because I strength train, but my heart is more efficient at pumping blood. My blood pressure went from 120s over 80 to on average now I'm between 110, 116 over 65. So once you start to do, people think, okay, you have to do cardio. I don't run. I just don't. I'm too heavy. I'm not saying that people shouldn't run. I'm just saying that's not for me. I really don't like running. So the moment I start to strength train, I literally still get the benefits of cardiovascular work. I don't believe my endurance is like everyone else. My concern is just my health. My heart is in good condition. My blood sugar is great. My A1C is great. My blood pressure is great. And my heart rate is on the low side of 60, like an athlete, which I am. So for those folks that, like, I meet a lot of people at work who come in because they're sick, they're overweight, their knees can't handle running. Doctors are going to tell you to go run. I go, well, you could try strength training. And they're a lot more receptive to that because we're not all built for running. So it's just an alternative to get us healthy. And I do eat a lot. I have to.
Wow, that was extensive in terms of the depth that you went, in terms of the benefits that one gained from, strength and so forth. But what happened, Dr. Anderson?
I lost you for a minute.
What I wanna.
Could you repeat that?
Oh, we're having. I was saying that you had put in a lot of nutritional facts in your statement earlier.
Yeah.
It was packed with information regarding our nutrition.
Yes.
And what that does tell me is that you're not just a super nurse, but you're also a specialist when it comes on to nutrition. So since we're on that term, could you just kind of now tell us that balance with that nutrition, and let us know in depth more about you and your belief in health along with nutrition?
Well, I did also get a master's in nutrition. I just couldn't be a good nurse if I didn't understand the relationship between food and health. And a lot of people don't like me for this. Because I say you eat for the health that you have and the health that you want. For example, again, we're going to go on the issue of race. We have more conditions than other people. And again, it's just not that we're bad. It's just that genetics. So genetics plays a role, or lifestyle play a role. For example, remember back when we were kids, we used to walk everywhere, and everybody's got a car now. So nobody walks pretty much anywhere. I'm speaking specifically not to Jamaica and here. We drive everywhere. And part of the challenge for that is we're still consuming the same number of the energy dense foods that we used to back when we were more mobile. And the challenge with that, what happened with that is we started to pack fat. Literally, we've gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. So I tell people, especially Jamaicans, that our food is a problem today. It wasn't a problem back when we were very mobile. It's very energy dense, calorie dense, and it doesn't have the type of nutrients that we need to sustain healthy bodies. We're literally still eating as our great grandparents ate. And for going further back, slaves ate. And like I said, I get in trouble for this a lot. Some of our traditional foods need to be consumed very limited. And I'll say things like cornmeal porridge, bread, white rice, the potatoes and the starchy foods. If it's plant-based, it's what I'm talking about. If your food come from the ground, it's more than likely a starch or a carbohydrate, and it basically converts to sugar in your body. We need to eat less of that. Why do we need to eat less of that? We're not moving enough to consume that sugar that we're getting from the food that we're eating. And what that means, we literally have to change our diet to match our lifestyle. If I'm sitting here for my job requires me to sit for 8 hours a day, I don't need a lot of food, right? If you're a construction worker, you need a lot of food. If you're a farmer, you need a lot of food. And their food requirement include a lot of starch or carb foods. Me sitting here, I don't need that. So my plate, if you see my plate, it doesn't really have any rice, potatoes, yams, dumpling, or anything like that. It's my meat, which is my protein, and a side of vegetables. Now, when I'm going to the gym, I'll add some starchy food there because I'm going to use the sugar that's in there to run my workout. We have to literally eat for her health. Somebody, for example, with heart disease, if you were told that you have congestive coronary artery disease where your cholesterol is high and now your heart's compromised, to that person, I'd say there's certain things you should not eat anymore. For example, meat, red meat. Somebody who's completely healthy can have red meat. But I would say if you have a compromised heart or cardiovascular system, you might want to just get your protein from beans, fruit, beans, and other sources, plant-based sources. If you're diabetic, you want to limit the amount of carbs you take in per day to about 140 if, again, you're a sedentary person. Now, what does 140 grams of carbohydrates look like? It's not much. You can literally just easily get that from fruits and vegetables. If I were a diabetic, I would not put dumpling and rice and yam or green bananas in my plate. And I know I've heard this before, but those are healthy. Yeah, but just not for you. They're healthy for somebody who does not have a predisposition for diabetes. They're healthy for an athlete, a kid who's 16 years old, who runs track, or, he's on the soccer team, the football team, for those people, it's healthy because they're using that as fuel. If you're sitting at the house, you're not burning any fuel, and all that goes to fat. And that's why a lot of us are having these chronic diseases, which includes arthritis in the knees and hips. We're sitting around and we're not using our bodies as much as we're supposed to. So guess what? It starts to break down. And that's kind of why I tell people, if you want to maintain your health through to old age, there are things you must do. You need to adjust your diet to your current health status. If you have high blood pressure, your diet has to change. If you have heart disease, your diet has to change. If you have diabetes, your diet has to change. If it runs in your family, your diet must be adapted to prevent it from happening. If you already have it, change your diet and you can reverse some of those things. The older you get, your diet has to be adjusted. You can't, second part of this, you can't do this. You cannot get to old age without working out, without exercise. I don't care if it's walking, but it has to be vigorous, at least 3 times a week, 3 times per week on different days. You must get a minimum of 150 minutes of vigorous, moderately vigorous to vigorous activity. Walking isn't necessarily vigorous, right? And I don't particularly recommend walking for somebody who's 25, 30 years old. If you're an elderly person, perfectly fine. Or you're recovering from any kind of illness, or you just got released from the hospital, or you got some condition that the doctor says that's kind of safe for you, walking is great. But for everybody else who's healthy, you need to start doing a lot more than just walking. If that's all you can do, fine, but you need more. It needs to be moderate to moderately vigorous. And that's not what walking is.
Okay, so I've gotten a lot from you right there on how important it is with the
Mhm.
nutrition, but you mentioned about our tradition.
Oh,
And now
traditional
this is
foods.
where that means, huh?
Traditionally, our foods, if you think about our great grandparents, if you think about the lifestyle they had, you know, what what they ate, they didn't necessarily eat for longevity. They ate to survive, they ate to function. Their lives were hard, physically hard, right? They were outdoors, chopping wood, planting in the fields. If there were construction workers, we did everything by hand. Talking about Jamaica, we were on our knees scrubbing the floors, polishing and shining the floors. We were hand washing everything. Our days were basically taken up with a lot of physical labor. You go to the market, you literally go to the market, you have to walk, you have to pick up your groceries. So our lives were much different when you look at your grandparents. Today, everything's automated. We've got washing machines, we don't get down and polish floors anymore. Just a little wipe because we've got tile. We don't have the red floors anymore. We have a lot of help. You find my kids need to go to school, we jump in a taxi and we take them to school. So we're literally not moving anymore. Our diet from our grandparents' standpoint was more fuel, was energy dense, was a lot of sugars. And that's what was important for them to sustain their health at that point. We're not them. Our lives completely different from theirs. But guess what? We're still eating that diet. We're still eating what our grandparents ate in the same quantities. And coming from Jamaica, you've seen our plates. You've seen how big those plates are. The big on one side, all that rice over here, the little bump of meat up in the
No,
corner, and 2 slices of tomatoes. You know how it is. The big old hunk of rice, and I'm like, we have to turn that around. And we need to prioritize our protein. Protein is really important. We don't eat enough of it. Protein is what's used to build and repair and maintain our tissues. Carbohydrates has one job. It's just energy. When we're wear and tearing our bodies, we don't have the necessary material, kind of like building a house. If you have poor quality material, what type of house you get? So I tell people, cut down on the carbs. You really don't need it. You don't. If you eat fruits and vegetables, there's enough carbs in there to sustain you if your lifestyle is sedentary. If you drive everywhere, if you sit for work, if you sit and watch TV or you sit and play video games, you don't need that. You don't need the green banana. You don't need the yams. You don't need the rice. You really don't need it. Substitute that for greens. You can have a plate of meat and callaloo and cabbage and beans, and there's enough carbohydrates in there to sustain you. So that's when traditional food literally is killing us, because not saying it's bad, it's just not what we need to maintain our health today. It's just energy. It's calorie dense. It's just most of it converts to sugar. It's high fat, high salt, and don't let me start it on salt, because our blood pressure is salt sensitive. Black people when we have high blood pressure, it's different from when white folks have blood pressure. Our blood pressure is salt driven. We really should be keeping the salt that we add to our foods. We really shouldn't be adding any salt to our foods. There's enough salt in our diet to maintain us. But the doctors are not telling us that. Don't add any salt to your food. I know it doesn't taste okay, but you get used to it. To offer a contrast, the Japanese consume about 3,400 milligrams of salt per day in their diet, and they're okay with that. The American Heart Association says the average diet should be 2,400 milligrams of sodium every day. to be fair, Black people need less than 1,200. And that's enough where you can get that from your actual, you can get that from the foods that you eat naturally. There's 25 milligrams in an apple. So apple has salt in it. You really don't need to add any, right? And if I saw an article the other day, if we completely remove adding of salt to our food, or rates of hypertension would drop about 50%. So the added salt, you put salt on your food, you put salt in your rice, you put it on your eggs, you put it on, if we stop doing that, we could reduce our rates of hypertension significantly. So, again, that's how we change. And the other thing I talked about the other day, remember how when we were little and playing outside and you saw salt crystals on your skin, like literally when you sweat? We don't play outside anymore. We don't do anything outside anymore. So we're maintaining, just like the sugar, we're keeping all that salt inside us. So a lot more sweating is good to get rid of the excess salt that we have in our bodies. But we really don't spend any time outside like we used to. So we're holding on to those things, and those things are really harming our bodies.
Okay, Dr. Anderson, quick one. How difficult it is to communicate this message to our, especially our Jamaican counterparts?
We're very stubborn.
Basically,
it's difficult, and we have some good reasons for that. It's very hard to trust the healthcare system. People don't trust doctors. They don't really, and here's why. The language difference between a physician and his patients can be challenging. And most people don't realize when somebody is educated 2 degrees above another person, it's very hard for them they're basically speaking 2 different language. And I've seen that over and over. My patients, for example, as soon as the doctor leaves the room, they're asking me to explain what the doctor just said. And I'm sure you've seen that. Okay, so what did he say? The doctor's in the room, the doctor's talking, but they didn't necessarily understand what he was saying. So sometimes, or doctors need to pay attention to that. I saw an article once that Jamaica, they were asking them to speak English. Jamaicans don't speak English. We speak our local dialect. And there are terms and words in doctor speak, I like to say, that our local people do not understand. So when you're talking to patients or people in general, you can be saying the right things, but if they don't understand you, they can't put those changes in place. And then when they come back, you say, well, they're not compliant. I told them what to do, but they're not doing it. So if I want to reach my audience, one of the things I do is I speak at a level where I know they can understand me. And then I check understanding. Okay, what did I just say? Can you repeat back to me what I just said? Like, for example, using the car, the food kind is fuel. You put the fuel in your car and you drive it, you move, you burn it, same thing. So I use language that it's easier for people who didn't go to medical school to understand. So it is hard. And then there's the aspect of trust. If I go into the doctor's office and I don't understand what the doctor is saying, but my neighbor told me something that works, I'm more likely to listen to my neighbor. And things that we do, for example, iron. We have the traditional medicine, and then we have our holistic, or what my grandma told me to use back in the day. There's a conflict. I had a Jamaican patient a few months ago, an elderly lady. She was in the hospital twice. Her blood sugar dropped so low, blood pressure dropped so low, she had to come to the hospital. She said her doctor was having a hard time titrating her meds to get it to where it would stabilize. So she'll be at home, blood pressure so low, she'll pass out. Here she is at the hospital. I come to find out she's been taking garlic with her blood pressure medicine. She never thought it was an issue. She said her son-in-law was giving it to her to help with the blood pressure. So I had to explain to her, well, you can't take both. And if you do, I said, did you tell your doctor? She said, no. I said, you want to tell your doctor these things. So they're not going to judge you. They will try to work with you. So you want to take your garlic, It's known to drop your blood pressure, but if you take it with your regular blood pressure meds, that'll tank it. And that's why you keep ending up in the hospital. So when you go back to the doctor, let him know that you take garlic and he can work with you to make the adjustments that you need, because that's very dangerous. And then she gave me permission to tell the doctor that was working with her in the hospital that she was taking garlic. And so we kind of figured why she kept coming back. And it's things like that. So if you're taking any bush medicine or you're taking anything to treat your condition and you go to the doctor, you need to tell the doctor what you're taking. So, but people don't want to do that. It's I hear doctors don't know what they're talking about. And a lot of that comes from, I don't understand you, so you don't know what you're talking about. So that's some of what I see. I've talked to people go to the doctor. So what did the doctor say? Up here, foolishness, the doctor said a while ago. Okay, what you mean? Tell me what he said. They couldn't repeat back to me what the doctor said. You didn't understand a word, did you? No. So they're listening to the doctor, don't understand anything, and walk away with the doctor doesn't know what he's talking about. Not that I don't understand him. He just doesn't know what he's talking about. So now they go to their neighbor and they go to the elder and they listen to the elder and they take that. So it's challenging. And then for me to say, this is also challenging. If I were to tell you that drinking bush tea is not safe, and I will hear, well, my grandma drank it forever and ever and ever, and she was fine. I was like, how do you know? And what dose of the bush medicine is okay? How do you know how much you should take? Is it the same for a child? The same dose for a child? What about a man that's a man versus a woman? Our bodies are different. What about somebody that's 200 pounds versus somebody 120 pounds? How do we know what is a safe dose of the Cersei tea to take? We do know, for example, too much Cersei can damage the liver, right? So how much is a safe dose? We don't know. We can't titrate your home medicine, the one that you make. We don't know how to do that. So, but they swear by them. So the question becomes, it's going to be really hard. And hopefully, I think if we break down the message enough where people can actually understand what you're saying, and then we leave them to make the decision. That's just how I put it. And that's kind of, I've been on Facebook for a long time, and I have a few people who listen to what I have to say, because I take the information, which can be very complex, and break it down in a way that they can actually make sense of it. People call me and tell me, okay, well, the doctor said this, what is he talking about? Okay, well, here's what he was talking about. So people come to me with that. Even in the hospital. Well, ma'am, I've never heard this before. I'm probably sure you have. You just haven't heard it broken down in that way for you to understand it. And that's one way to get around that.
Great. Well, you have been really breaking it down for us here tonight. And with that said, my next question to you is, how can healthcare and fitness professionals work together to improve this public health?
One deficit, I think, from the medical community is, there's a saying, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Okay? They've been trained on medicine so much that they can't see the benefit, the benefit of functional. It's changing, though. There's an organization called Lifestyle Medicine, American Association of Lifestyle Medicine, where doctors are now basically getting certified in an area where they're looking at lifestyle and including that in treating disease. It's not widespread yet. It's brand new and they're working on it. I'm going to give you an example. When I started lifting, remember this doctor I was just so fortunate to have met this doctor that she told me, do not get an MRI. My back was hurting pretty bad. It was so bad that I literally have to go when I go to the supermarket, I use a cart as a walker. That's how bad it was. She assessed me. She said, no pain, no numbness, no tingling. I said, no, it's just pain. She said, well, here's what I'm going to tell you to do. Go to the gym. She gave me some ibuprofen and sent me to the gym. She said, if I send you to get an MRI, you're going to be married to your diagnosis, and then you're going to walk around treating your back like eggshells, and you're going to not do what you need to do to get better. And she was right. So for about 2 years, I'm at the gym throwing iron. I like to say I am throwing iron. I'm competing. I'm winning. I'm coming in first in my age and weight class, taking medals, moving through over 300 pound on squats, benching up to 200, and deadlifting up to 400. And I was at a chiropractor one day, and he said, why don't you go see what your back look like? Because I told him the story. That doctor walked into that room after seeing my MRI and told me he was shocked. People with my injury come to see him in wheelchairs. He said, you're a candidate for surgery, but I can't justify surgery with you because you don't have any pain. The point of back surgery is pain relief. It's not to repair your damage. It's pain relief. So I say, okay, so if the whole point was pain relief, why are 98% of those fail. 98% of back surgeries fail, right? It's not helping, but they do it anyway. So the first thing that doctor told me to do was stop lifting. I said, why would I stop doing the thing that makes me pain-free? So how do then there's a challenge. How do I get a physician who saw an MRI with damage and they see the patient functioning and telling me to stop doing the thing that is now allowing me to function? They don't go to medical school to treat healthy people, right? They go to school to treat sick people. So when I walk in with no symptoms, what I was surprised about, he didn't ask me, so tell me more about what it is that you did to make yourself pain-free. His concern was I was lifting too heavy and it was going to cause damage. I'm going, sir, I've been doing this for 2 years. I have no pain. Didn't know I was injured till you told me. So that tells you the disconnect between medicine and lifestyle, right? So I'll tell people, find the doctor that will work with you. They like to tell you to stop. They love MRIs. My hospital right now, one of the best in the city, has literally stopped doing MRIs. They no longer do. If you come in for back pain, they're not doing MRI. They're basically going to tell you, go home and exercise, which I think is the best thing. So things are changing, or doctors are becoming more aware. And I think it's up to us as patients to educate our physicians as well. Doc, here's what I was doing and it's working. I've had doctors one of my doctors, for instance, my gynecologist, when I walked into her and she saw how built I was, literally, I'm a 200-pound woman. I'm not fat. 130 is muscle. When she saw me, all of her staff came in and started feeling on my biceps. Then she asked if she could do this. She's in her 60s. She says, I deliver babies, but I feel sad because she can't, she's so weak. As soon as I catch the baby, I have to hand him over. I miss being able to hold the baby. She signed up to my coach at the gym. My coach called me, Tabitha, guess who signed up? Your doctor. So my physician heard me, saw my vitals, saw how healthy I was, and went to sign up to the gym that I was going to. So that's how we as patients can also educate our physicians. Hey, this is what I'm doing and it's working. Medicine is not infallible. Medicine is not perfect. And I think we all know that. So, but if you go to a doctor and they act like it's perfect, you probably need a new one. So.
All right there, Dr. Tabitha. So you basically describe how powerlifting basically have helped you with a diagnosis, and
multiple
definitely
disc.
There you go. So the next question I would want to ask you is, what's your vision for powerlifting in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean, and how can it grow as a sport? Because I know it is still getting there in terms of a sport here in Jamaica. Not many people are involved, or we don't know about the channels. Could you kind of enlighten us on that?
2020, 2021, the National Association, the National NPAJ, National Powerlifting Association of Jamaica, was formed. So we are a member of the International Federation for Powerlifters, the IPF. We are also a member of the North American Powerlifting Federation, NAPF, and we are actively looking for athletes. We represent we're not a very large group now, but we want to grow. So we have gyms in Mandeville and Kingston right now who are certified with the NPAJ to train and coach athletes, and we would love to see this in all the other parishes. Yes, our athletes get to travel and represent the island, and we're doing really well considering we're brand new at this. We are some strong people. That's one thing I tell people, that a benefit of our ancestors having gone through enslavement, we adapted and became some really strong people, right? And we can see it now. There's a gentleman out there picking up a bag of cement with his teeth. Have you seen that picture? I saw the video.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if that guy were to ever start powerlifting, he'd be a superstar. So that's not normal. I put on 30 pounds of muscle in a year. I was told that was impossible. I'm like, it was impossible until I did it. I'm not special. I was literally told, you're talking about, I'm 44 years old at the time. I'm 50 years old now, and I'm still deadlifting over 400 pounds. I was 44 years old, 6 months after my back injury. I picked up 400 pounds on a deadlift. The people at my gym told me that is not, they're people, they're doing it for years and years and years and will never pick up 400 pounds. I said, that is my Jamaican genes. That is straight up my Jamaican genes. 30 pounds of muscle gained in a year. That's not supposed to be possible, but I did it. I went from 176 pounds, I remember when I started lifting, to by the end of the year, I was 198 pounds. I was and then I had something called a DEXA scan, which it says, I'm surprised. Why am I putting on weight? I'm trying to lose weight here. And I kept getting heavier and heavier. I wasn't getting bigger, just heavier and heavier. So we do have an active powerlifting organization in Jamaica. We want more people to sign up. And right now, we're going to Cayman in July. We're competing against 13 other countries in the region. Trinidad is big into it. Puerto Rico, Canada, the US, all these countries are going to be there. And I'm going to probably send you our little GoFundMe link so we can, see if we can get more people to donate. But we need more support. We need more people to cheer for our team. But yeah, we have a YouTube channel and everything, so you can be able to see. We're Instagram, YouTube, and even on Facebook. So it'd be great to have people from your parish, form their own little league. We've got Mandeville right now in Kingston. We don't have anybody in Montego Bay. We don't have anybody in St. Elizabeth. We don't have anybody anywhere else. So we'd like to see gyms in those other parts of the country joining forces to develop their own athletes so they can represent Jamaica. And it can be we take any age. You can be 18 to 100 years old. We'll take 8 to 100 years old. We'll take you.
I'm very much interested for something like this for my community. And St. Elizabeth, as you said, don't have anything going on in that instance. So, that's something that definitely interests me in terms of having something like that. And I told you where I'm from, a lot of farmers lifting a lot of load, a lot of construction workers lifting, working hard daily. So this is an everyday thing. So I take that to the next question, Tabitha. So what advice would you give to someone now who is just like a beginner, just starting the journey, but is intimidated? Because I should say this. Once I went to the gym, and when I got to the gym, I see some strong guys on there. And I go in with my little stuff. I was nervous.
You know what? If you're a guy and you think it's intimidating for you, think about women. Women have to do that too. And all the good equipment is in the corner, and there's all these giant men in there too. So we have to also navigate. So the challenge for you Think about the little bitty women going in there. I said, look here, go in there and take up space. They didn't start out being that big and strong. They started out exactly where you were. They all started out there. I have my videos of when I first started lifting. It's pathetic to look at, but then we all start somewhere. Um, I remember going to the gym with my little injured self, and they were jumping on boxes, and the coach gave me a little box about 12 inches to step on. That was embarrassing. I literally took my little box to the back of the room, and I was stepping on my little 12-inch box. It took me a year, actually 2 years, before I was able to jump on the 21-inch box. So, little bitty steps. So you take yourself and you go in the corner and you tell them to move out your way because you need to use the equipment. And it's just as simple. And I do understand it's intimidating. I do understand it's embarrassing, especially somebody who's self-conscious, self-aware, and maybe trying to lose. It's especially important for people who want to lose weight. I don't tell people anymore to lose weight. You would not get me telling somebody who is considered obese to lose weight. Here's what I tell them to do. Build muscle. I'm not going to tell you you're fat. I'm never going to say that. You know what? Because we all, for everybody who's ever tried to lose 10 pounds, it's like almost impossible. People who try to lose 10 pounds will tell you it's impossible. It's hard to do. And even when they manage to do it, the 10 pound come back in about 3 months. It's right back where it started. So it's very hard to lose weight. Once your body kind of knows what you're trying to do and will stop you. So here's what I say. Build muscle. The doctor says lose weight. I won't tell you to do that. I'm going to tell you to go into the gym or pick up a backpack and stuff it with 20 pounds of books and go walking. It's called rucksacking. It's weight training. If you walk with weights on your back, it's still strength training, right? What happens when you build muscle, your body automatically over time use that fat as fuel. As long as you don't increase the amount of fuel that you're eating, if you eat the very same way, let's say you weigh 250 pounds, you want to lose 50 pounds. Don't change your diet. If you don't change your diet and you start to build muscle, one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be not necessarily lighter, you're going to be smaller. Because guess what? Your muscle will need, your demand for fuel will go up. And if you do not change the amount of food that you eat, I would like you to change the type of food that you eat, but let's say the amount. Don't change the amount of food that you eat. You won't gain another pound and you will lose weight. It's just how it is when you change your body composition will change. You work on the big muscles, the muscles in your quads, your glutes, and your lower body. Those are the ones that use up the most amount of fuel. But men tend to like to do upper body. So for women, do squats. Do them without weights. You don't have to start with weight. Do squats. Put your arm right here and squat in a chair. Everybody, if you can sit on a toilet, you're squatting. If you can sit on a chair, you're squatting. Just do that multiple times. 3 sets of 15. That's squatting. That's a workout. Until, wait a minute, it now becomes too easy. Put a backpack on your back with some books in it and squat that. If you like to go walking, do that. And the other thing too, you can't tell somebody who's 250 pounds to go running. They'll develop knee pain. So I tell them squat. Squat, deadlift with proper form. So that would be what I would say at that point. In terms of managing.
All right, Tabitha. So we're getting close. So, okay, Doc, we're getting close to that 1 hour mark. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask you this question, and then you help me wrap up, in this one. So basically, as someone, with such knowledge, vast amount of knowledge, a strong background in health policy, weightlifting, and all this, you definitely know there's a lot of barriers that people face in accessing quality wellness program. Could you just tell us some of these barriers? And the last part of it is, how do we get connected with you, since you know so much, and we know that there's a lot of challenging to find this health and wellness program. We
Okay.
know you have your own health and wellness company. So just kind of
Mhm.
take us through that and wrap it up for us.
Okay. So access is really difficult for a lot of people. And what does access mean? Your ability to schedule the time to get to the location, the support for a lot of people is not there. If you have to work, um, I'm gonna talk about expense. Good food is expensive. I came to Jamaica, for example, and I went to the supermarket, and you're paying $1,200 for a dozen eggs. I pay before all this mess happened. I was paying $3 for a dozen eggs. I consume 10 eggs a day. And I can't expect the average Jamaican to be able to afford to eat like that. Um, that's one aspect of access. We're talking about changing your diet when your diet is expensive. It's expensive to eat. So I suggested to some certain people of mine, find the farmer. If you have to make a trip to the country, everybody has a vehicle or access to a vehicle. Well, most people anyway. Gather some people and find the guy who's producing the eggs so you can get the middleman and not have to go to the supermarket. We used to go to the market downtown on Saturdays. Go to those people or find the person producing the food. You'll get it at cost. That's just my thought. Lack of awareness is another issue with access. People don't know what they don't know, right? The information isn't readily available. If you're trusting your doctor, he doesn't know, what are you going to do? Stigma. This is one that we want to talk about. People think that if women, for example, go to work out, they're going to look like men. Women who pick up weights are good. No, we're not. We have a lot of estrogen. What you will have is the nice curves. You can see all these women on Instagram. They're lifting really heavy, but they still look like healthy women. They're not. You're not going to turn into a guy. In fact, I've been told by men that I want to look like a man. I'm like, sir, you don't even look like me. You don't even look like the guy you're telling me I'm going to look like. So no, we're not going to turn into men, especially for women, start to lift weights. Jobs. Some of us work long hours. We have the kids, and it becomes hard to find the time. I still believe that's an excuse. You can get up out of bed and do 10 push-ups. Right as you wake up, you can do 10 push-ups. You can do some air squats as you get up out of bed, even right before you go to the bathroom and brush your teeth. So sometimes, that's effective and that's a workout. Support from family. If you start to lift weights, you might have people telling you, don't do that. It might hurt you. I've got people telling me, women lifting weights, they're going to have a prolapse. Their vagina is going to fall out. Things like that. We've heard those things. None of that is true. So everybody can strength train. A push-up is strength training. You're using your own body weight. Now, to wrap up, how to get a hold of me? I'm on Facebook. I'm at work and I'm on Facebook. You can publish the name of my website. I've got a Facebook group that anybody's welcome to join that you're a part of. You can link those as well. I'm available. I'm pretty much available to basically talk. You can catch me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, DRBIGSID12, Dr. Big Sid 12. If you can find me, I'm open to talk to anybody. I'm not hard to find.
So definitely we're gonna share some of those links,
Yeah.
and I know Dr. Tabitha will have to bring you back on, to give us much more of the knowledge that you have gained and some of the work that you have been doing. We really appreciate it, what you have been doing. I know you work just as hard as anybody else, but yet still you find that time to go out and go to the gym, put in the work, and balance it. You're able to do it, and I know it when they look at your career sheet, your rap sheet, what you have done over the years, and and to find time for all this that you have talked to us about, it is just amazing, and the vast amount of knowledge that you possess in each area. because
Mhm.
you started out, we were talking early about, like the weightlifting. Then by the time you go into nutrition, you have gone into depth that not even my doctor have gone into.
I hear
you
that a
know,
lot.
so
I get that
that
a lot.
just goes to say how much knowledgeable you are about the field and how passionate you are about what you're doing. So we're definitely gonna have you back on here another day, to talk to the people, and we'll post those links. And I just want to say, on behalf of the Together We Rise Building Our Nation and a platform, we just want to say thank you for taking the time out to be here tonight. We really appreciate it. And we're just gonna continue to follow your journey. And as I
Mhm.
said, I'm very interested in starting something in my community in this
Mhm.
St. Elizabeth. It's something that really interests me. And since we don't have any reason to feel intimidated as
No, no.
beginners,
Go in there and take up space.
I will definitely do that one. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
definitely put that on my calendar. That guess what?
Mhm.
I'm gonna start lifting some weights now. All right.
Mhm. And I
So
will put
thank
you
you
in touch.
again.
I'll put you in touch with the president and the national coach for Jamaica for the national NPAJ, National Powerlifting Association of Jamaica.
Definitely would appreciate. Thank you very
Mhm.
much. Have a blessed night.
You too. Thanks for having me.
All right.